robot who had to retire after 2 rounds with that shoulder problem. That is all the action he's had in 2 years and 3 months since he beat James DeGale, going up against Marcus Morrison, who is certainly stepping up massively in class. Both these two men have had a bad experience in this house. Morrison is 8-1 here, but he lost against Jason Wellborn over 10. That led him to a little tailspin where he ended up losing 3, and his career seemed to be spiralling out of control, but he's pulled himself out of that now. And Eubank, well, he lost here to George Groves back in February 18 at super middleweight. And it's a chance for Morrison to catapult himself up the levels if he can bring off the big upset here. And if you look at Giovanni Straffan, a 9-1 underdog, and Spider Richards, a 10-1 underdog, the bookies don't fancy Morrison at all. 16-1 you could get on him this morning. And as for Eubank, a chance to see what he's learned under the tutelage of Roy Jones Jr. in Pensacola, Florida, where those two have been holed up for quite a while. And Eubank said he's revitalised me and he's really changed my mental approach to the game as much as anything.
Not much happened in the first minute of the fight. Marcus Morrison landed a lovely jab just after the first bell. Landed the jab to the body. He's really thrown so far just jabs and trying to judge the distance. Marcus Morrison trying to jab and then claim him. Eubank still struggling to find his distance at the moment.
Remember Marcus Morrison in the Joe Gallagher gym? You know, he was the baby of the group. You're all British champion level, all above. And I remember Marcus being as physically in shape like this. He really has filled out beautifully. Looked terrific on the scales yesterday.
Always in fantastic condition, as is Eubank. Eubank has always been in phenomenal condition, and as Chris mentioned earlier, to go up to 168 and hold your own, and listen, he did hold his own at that weight with the likes of George Groves, just for the opportunity, because the opportunity of that tournament and the law of the financial pay of that tournament and the opportunity to become world champion and Super Series champion. It shows you what he's about, Chris Eubanks Jr. He's just easing into this round, as I said. There's not been much from him, and he's been caught with a couple of jabs, but I think we can expect more from Eubanks Jr.
Joe Gallagher in the Morrison corner. There's one opportunity. This is for Morrison. I must admit, I thought he was fading away. Losses to the likes of Tyler Tooth, going 1 in 11 when he got the better of Marcus over 4 rounds. Then Alistair Warren, who was 10 and 18 at the time, and he just thought, oh, Morrison and his promise is going to just fade away. But he has pulled a string of 6 wins together, mostly against journeymen, but he did go to Italy and get a very good win against Emanuele Blandamura back in July 2019. And if he can replicate that kind of performance tonight against Eubank, he can certainly make it interesting. And he certainly doesn't look too out of his depth there. A very tentative start from Chris Eubank Jr., having a good look at Marcus Morrison there.
Yeah, you mentioned the time booth defeat there. The first time I ever saw Chris Eubank Jr. box was around about 2013 against Ty and Booth. He's an Ingle Gym fights are very, very slippery, very awkward to look good against, especially over the 4-round distance. And you know, you've only got to give away 2 or 3. You've lost the contest, and you've got no chance to get back into it. Eubank really struggled against Booth as well. Alistair Warren, again, a fighter that he shouldn't have lost against, but he is better than his record suggests. Just listen to what Roy Jones is saying.
That's how you do. Put the hand right there. Yep.
That's been another big change for Eubank Jr., and it's something we've talked about a lot this week. I know you guys have talked about it yourself, Chris, and Darren Barker. Many others have made the observations that Eubank was very happy to sort of run his own camps, do his own thing. But, you know, you're working with Roy Jones, you're listening to one of the greats now.
Yeah, well, I guess in the old days, he had his dad kind of stepping in between the ropes and doing this bizarre kind of posturing in a full suit. Ronnie Davis being made to stay outside of the ropes. And I think when his dad was telling him things, he wasn't really listening. And he's always seemed like a fighter that's been very strong-willed. And he's always going to take someone of immense sort of stature and who really gained his respect in order for him to listen. And okay, Roy Jones is one of the greatest of all time, and he has finally started to listen. And you know, Jones said earlier this week, he's not going to suddenly just turn into, you know, some sort of Roy Jones remake. He said, but what I can try and do is upgrade his own software based on the fighter he is and maximise the attributes that he's got. One of those is being more patient. Two is not just seeing sparring as an exercise to try and take people's heads off, to actually learn things in a technical aspect. And well, this is the most patient start we've seen from Eubanks, arguably at any stage of his career so far.
We've seen him when he sat down in the corner saying he's going to come apart soon. That was just Eubanks saying that, obviously, about Marcus Morrison. But what I liked seeing them, which used to frustrate the life out of me with Chris Eubanks Jr., is the eye contact with Roy Jones, looking in his eyes, listening, nodding his head, paying attention. You have to pay attention when you've got a trainer like Roy Jones Jr. in your corner because of his experience, the knowledge that he has as a trainer. If he's passing anything on to you, you listen.
Nice counter there from Eubanks. Morrison was teased to make the first move and he paid for it.
He just landed a good jab before he got caught there, Marcus Morrison. I think the tactics from Joe Gallagher and Marcus Morrison, not that I know, but what I've seen on the pads and the couple of little build-ups is 1-2 or throw a jab, right hand next lane, Eubanks stopping from low block.
When Eubanks starts letting the punches flow, he is a hurtful puncher and he's really doing some damage downstairs, switching it upstairs.
That's the hold. Morrison, he's the fire battle hold.
Eubanks steps away.
But he wants the rounds, doesn't he?
That's blatantly obvious. Because at the moment he is just picking Morrison apart. He could have possibly finished it there if he'd really fancied it.
Big welt just behind the right eye of also the temple of Marcus Morrison.
This all began when he took that big counter. He felt the power of Eubanks and it's shaken him. Looks comfortable now, Eubanks. What about that? He had him in trouble and he just stepped right away. And as you said, Chris, he wants a workout tonight.
That's what Roy Jones used to do so beautifully, almost kind of bait you in with a lazy posture, that low lead left hand, and then make you pull the trigger, commit over the front foot, and then suddenly catch you with something hurtful. Caught with that right hand there by Marcus Morrison, didn't he? But when Eubanks let the hands go, he just went flat, didn't he, Paul?
As soon as Eubanks started to land, then I think the referee was having a good look there. There was nothing coming back from Morrison at all, and that's worrying. You don't want to see that. You know, this is the biggest fight of your lives now against someone like Chris Eubanks. This is a scalp. This is a major scalp. You can punch. You can punch really hard. You have to go with him. You have to go with him and swing with him and fight with him.
10
seconds, corners.
I love how calm the advice is from Roy Jones in the corner. Just speaking, just quiet, calm.
Round 3.
A great athlete in any sport doesn't necessarily become a great coach, but you get the sense with Roy Jones Jr. that he is an outstanding coach as well. Because you think of the skill set that he has, you know, that footwork, the hand speed, the reflexes. Those aren't the qualities you associate with Chris Eubanks. You know, he's not going to make him, as you said earlier, a clone of himself. But what he will do is work and develop his other attributes. And that's going to be a fascinating journey.
The problem Eubanks has had over the years, he's never really had the element of surprise. He's always put everything into every single shot. And so for those opponents, people like Arthur Abraham, who can tuck up well and has got durability, they get used to that power. And even though some of those fights have been one-sided in his favour, he's always just been in danger of settling into that rhythm. Whereas do what he's doing now and you just bait, just have that low lead left hand, just waiting for something. When you do catch your opposite man, it's a little bit more hurtful. But that's better from Marcus Morrison.
It really was. Yeah, it was Eubanks that committed himself. And he's got to believe in himself here. There's a real mental side of this for Marcus Morrison. He's got to have faith in himself that he can mix it at this level. Lovely, nice lovely right hand counter there from Morrison to the body.
Got to be positive, Nick, as you say, Morrison. He's got to have his own belief in this fight now. I'm here I am. Keep that centre of the ring now. Don't take any more steps back. Keep the centre of the ring. Eubanks is looking for the feinting the body and coming in with a left hook. Very, very typical and similar to what Roy Jones used to do back in the day. He's having a walk. He's making a show. He's making it all about him. But Marcus Morrison has to do his own game, stick to his own game plan, and try and catch Eubanks as he's coming in. Eubanks, as we said, you know, as Chris said earlier, he needs rounds. He's been out for a long time, and he's looking to get these rounds. I felt he could have closed the show in the second round before. but he chose and opted to get more rounds in, so he has to keep sticking to his game plan, what he's doing.
Look at all this fainting. Who would draw the mistake? Real cat-foul stuff going on in there at the moment. Who's going to go? Who's going to go? And who's going to get counted? Yeah, if Eubanks say, well, you come in, and Morrison went for the jab, but mind games now from Eubanks. Lots of mind games, but Morrison not getting dragged into anything here.
Eubanks actually repeating back the corner advice that Morrison's receiving.
This is when Eubanks needs to commit, when Morrison's got only a foot or so between him and the ropes, because Morrison's probably got the quicker feet of the two of them. So when they're at centre ring and Eubanks overcommits, Morrison can just take that half step back, but Eubanks needs to kind of work his man back to the ropes, use those feints to try and push him back, and then go to work, because at the moment when they're long, it's not the easiest task for Eubanks to catch him clean.
There's a relaxed dressing room for Joseph Parker. Very laid back guy. Says he absolutely loves this time in the UK. He's seen a lot more of it.
10 seconds, corners.
Love that. Yes, sir, from Chris Eubanks Jr.
Round 4.
Round 4 then. Eubanks Jr. and Marcus Morrison in some trouble in the second round. Did not press the issue. The third round was a lot more even and a lot more cagey. We are in round 4 of this 10-rounder. Not all Eubanks' fault, of course, and he's been absent for over 500 days. As the pandemic put paid to a possible fight with Jamal Charlo, which never materialised as a result of COVID. So he was looking to make up for lost time. Nice right-hand counter again from Morrison. Eubanks takes a big step back off the back of it. You do say, Paul, that he can bang. If he gets you, you'll know about it, Morrison.
He can punch. He's just giving Eubanks something to think about by getting close with these counters. I'm not saying they're all landing from Morrison. But Marcus Morrison with them small gloves on, if he hits you, you will know about it. Eubanks looks comfortable. He looks like he's easing into it. But every now and then, Morrison will try and counter like that and give Eubanks something to think about.
Morrison giving Eubanks a taste of his own medicine there, and Joe Gallagher enjoyed that.
For Eubanks, once he lands a shot, Morrison will try and counter, but then when Eubanks goes in for the second phase, there is no counter from Morrison, and he'll take us back to the ropes, and that's when Eubanks can unload. That's what Eubanks needs to do more of now. See, so now here's where you've got it now. Once the counter's gone, there's not many more coming back from Morrison.
He said earlier, he doesn't want to be sitting on those ropes. Takes a body shot there as well, Morrison. Saw the reaction.
See, there's got to be more from Morrison there. You've been on the receiving end of one exchange, and then you come out and you're in with distance to punch, and it's just a little bit gun shy there from Morrison. We've got to see more from him. We've got to establish his own jab. He does that really well, Eubanks. He can throw 2, 3, 4 jabs on the bounce to the head or to the body.
There he goes again with that right hand counter. Again to the body. He's been switched on since getting roughed up in that second round, Marcus Morrison, no question about that.
Yeah, good. Don't do that. Don't keep fighting, so no better.
You can hold it, but it's not so hard. Yeah.
Keep him fighting. The more you keep him fighting, the more fatigue you're going to get. Right? I mean, keep on. He's trying to really keep on. Make him think come. Make him think come. He never really come. He's trying to put you on the off the street. What he trying to do?
Bang. Step, slip, bang. All right? Well, slap, throw the right hand, and he'll duck down. You can move that left hook to the body or left hook.
Now you give it to him. Hit you on. Come. You want to box him half up. Look from the other. Don't take off too much. Then keep sitting right next to him.
10 seconds, corners.
He's round in best.
Second time. Round 5.
Fascinating battle of the coaches, isn't it? Roy Jones Jr., Eubanks Corner and Gallagher, who had so much success with the four Smith brothers, taking two of them to world titles, along with Anthony Crawler and Scott Quigg, taking a bunch of others to domestic level and above as well. It was a track record of success over 5 or 6 years there, coming out of that Gallagher gym, and Morrison was a part of that as well. Really unprecedented. Can Morrison get the big win here, or is Eubanks finally deciding to load up here? Well, they're both going for it.
I think the advice from Roy Jones in the corner at the end of that round was very, very good. But for Chris Eubanks Jr., don't take too much off now.
Well, he's starting to let it go, isn't he? That right hand starting to look menacing from Eubanks. There it is, another body shot. Comes in from Eubanks. He got the uppercuts in there as well. Morrison now bleeding from the nose as well. That was a really vicious assault from Chris Eubanks, and it's had its effect.
Yeah, what he did really nicely where Morrison was on the ropes there, Nick, was just adjusted his range really well. He just smothered his work a couple of times when he has committed in previous rounds. With that, he just adjusted the feet, took a little half step out in the middle of the combination. That allowed a few more shots to get through clean. And as you say, busted up the nose of Marcus Morrison. And well, the first meaningful passage of action in these 5 rounds. And it's taken a long time to get going. And at the beginning of the round, I was going to say to you, it's about time somebody starts to make their move on this contest, and Eubanks has now done so.
That's what I was trying to explain when Roy Jones said it to Chris Eubanks Jr. Look, don't take too long off now. You've had a couple of rounds off, but nothing's really happened. Put your foot on the gas, in other words, and he certainly did that in the first minute of that round then.
And then let's take the next minute off. Backed up again, Eubanks. Well, he's talked about sparring a lot this week, and how his approach is different under Roy Jones Jr. He talked about technical spars, which is self-explanatory. He's used a lot of this fight almost as a technical spar here, Eubanks. Sort of working things out in a live situation. But you do get the feeling, we saw it in the second round and we saw it at the start of this 5th round, that if Eubanks does want to go through the gears, he can make life very uncomfortable for Marcus Morrison here, but he's happy just to fight in little bursts.
I think it's against guys like Murata and Golovkin. They're going to make him fight far more of the 3-minute rounds than Marcus Morrison is. I think while Eubanks been happy to sort of coast and take time off the rounds, Morrison's also been happy as well to let him do so. But he's not going to have that luxury against the top guys in the division, whether it's Charlo, whether it's Golovkin, whether it's Murata. He's going to have to work, and his output's going to have to be better than what it's been tonight.
The output will have to be better. It's also a case of now at the moment, can you work bell to bell for 10 rounds or 12 rounds? Can you work for 3 minutes of a round? Not everyone can, I understand that, but if it's one burst a round, that's not going to be enough for the likes of Murata, Golovkin. And I know we're just looking at his first fight back, and as he said himself, over 500 days, but the one burst and one flurry per round is not going to be enough for the top guys at the weight.
You see there's the adjustment I was just talking to you about. So he does it 2 or 3 times, goes in, bursts, then adjusts the feet, and that gives him the distance to land the shots that he needs to land instead of smothering his work. And that was really, really good spell for him. And if you can put together 2 or 3 more of those, I mean, look at the damage that did to the face of Marcus Morrison and the sensitivity that caused just with 2 or 3 chained up attacks where he put his shots together. Just shows you the potential that he's got.
He's a really Just stay really keep on we have to play the last round.
10 seconds, corners. Seconds out. Round 6.
The schedule for 10 as we go into round 6. I can't be the only one who senses that Chris Eubanks could end this one whenever he wants to, really, if he just puts a sustained burst of pressure together.
But also, and Paul's alluded to this, and Paul, you know firsthand that Marcus Morrison can really crack, and there's obviously some respect there that's stopping him from just wading in with complete ignorance, and he's obviously felt the power, and he knows he can't just get overzealous and step into range.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not saying that Morrison's actually, really in this fight, but after that second round, when Eubanks has let him off the leash, basically, let him off the hook, so to speak, it could have given Marcus Morrison that little bit of confidence. I think Marcus Morrison froze in the second round. I think when that attack came from Eubanks, the wall started closing in on him, but he seemed to have weathered the storm, and the previous onslaught in the fifth round there, Morrison was actually firing back. He was trying to catch and count, and he was trying to retain shots as well, albeit Eubanks was in control and dominating.
And here we go back to the cagey stuff again. Looks nice.
You seen that set up straight away there from Eubanks. He feinted the jab to the body, and Morrison reacted by dropping his hand. His left hand come down to pull that Eubanks jab to the body, and then a right hand come over next, just setting a trap.
Here he goes, unloading again. As you say, Morrison though knows that he can't just sit and freeze, but he takes some body shots there, and then a switch upstairs. That uppercut rips through. We've seen him destroy opponents with the uppercut before, and now he is putting it together. And can he keep the foot down here again? Another vicious body shot followed by the uppercut, and he's picking some really nasty punches here. Another right hand, and Morrison is unravelling here, and it might be a decision for the referee because now nothing is coming back.
He needs to get up the ropes, Morrison. I'd like to see Morrison just fire back with fast shots instead of looking and loading up for the big power shots.
Now, does Eubanks sit back and admire his work again and just take his time, get himself another couple of rounds, or does he go for the finish here? Still got nearly a minute left of this sixth round. He's just picking Morrison apart, just ripping the body shots in.
He's rolling really, really well in between these attacks, always seeing what's coming back and still adjusting those feet mid-combination to give himself the room that he needs. And these are nice adjustments, and we're just slowly starting to see those nuances and the software upgrade that clearly him and Roy Jones have been working on over these last 18 months. And well, it's taken a little while to get going this, but certainly there are signs that Eubanks, although rusty, and there's no doubt that he is rusty, that he has started to level up his skill set, his thinking, and his boxing IQ.
This thing with Eubanks as well, I've seen it before in sparring, and I experienced it myself when I'm in sparring. He'll have a big burst and he'll go for a walk, and it's just pinching a rest. It's looking like you're admiring your work, but you're stealing the rest, and you're just working in bursts, so it doesn't look too bad. You don't look too tired because you're walking around. There's a bit of the flash bravado as you're walking, but you're resting while you're doing it. And it's good work when he's on the ropes, and he throws a lot of punch volume. There's a lot of amount of punches which come out, and the spiteful punches and the powers in him. You can see the head movement. He's watching the counters coming back, and it's quality to watch. It really is good. But then he'll go and steal the rest, which is clever.
Well, Morrison has managed to survive that barrage. Just kept himself busy enough to stop the referee stepping in.
10 seconds, corners. Seconds out. Round 7.
Round 7 then of this 10-rounder. The Roy Jones Jr. trained Chris Eubanks Jr. in control now against very brave Marcus Morrison, who's had his moments, has landed some nice counters, but really hasn't made any kind of a dent in Eubanks at all. And to get Eubanks' attention, you do have to make some kind of dent in him. He's been pretty much doing what he wants in there thus far. I talked earlier about Roy Jones Jr. and what good footwork he had. It's in my imagination, guys, or is Eubanks' footwork looking really smooth tonight?
He's holding himself in a similar fashion, isn't he, to what Roy Jones used to do, you know, the left hand down, leaning forward over the front foot and then pulling back. And I don't think there'll ever be another Roy Jones Jr., but if you can pick anything up off him, it's going to be a bonus and it's going to help your career, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he's got naturally quick feet, Chris Eubanks. I think one thing he does struggle is really closing range quickly. He can kind of take that hop step out of range backwards, but I think coming forwards he's always sort of struggled, and that's where he relies on people over-committing in order to counter. And of course, listen, we know he's got quick hands, he's got very, very good hands when he lets them go. But his feet are something that I think, you know, that's almost intrinsic. You can teach a fighter how to position yourself and where to move, but that explosive snap and that natural spring just missing. Just see there, just kind of reaches with that jab a little bit, and he relies on fighters being in range rather than himself to really cover that gap in an explosive manner. Certainly his skill set, and there are signs that the IQ is developing. That's been the benefit of them working together for the last 18 months. Yes, he's been inactive, but he's been sparring. They've had time to bed in a completely new set of philosophies and ideas, and he's 31 now, so Roy Jones knows he can't reinvent the wheel with this kid. And I'm sure there's been points in the last 18 months where he's thought, I wish I could have had this kid 5-6 years ago. Could have maybe done a little bit more with him, but if it sharpens him up and it maximises the tools that he's got at this stage of his career, gives himself the best possible chance. If he does get one of these big names, then that is what Eubank can hope for at this stage of his career.
Yeah, he said the inactivity was a blessing in disguise because he and Roy Jones Jr. were locked away, weren't they? That's nice again from Eubank. There he is looking for the body shots again, and Morrison in trouble once again. Tucks up.
Referee's having a good look at Morrison here. I don't think he'll take another onslaught like the previous round.
Well, he had a good look last time and gave him the benefit of the doubt. 30 seconds for Marcus Morrison to navigate his way through here in this 7th round. And again, Eubank having had his little burst of success, happy just to coast through again.
There you go, good.
Tell you, the longer it's gone on, the less success Marcus Morrison has had.
See Marcus Morrison missing with the left hook there, trying to lead with a left hook, and Eubank counting him with his own left hook, head Morrison, and then come at him again with another onslaught, which the referee was having a good look at Morrison there.
You gotta hit him just in the area. You can't still stay pop there. You can win the fight with the jab. Yeah, you can get him, make him stay. No, make him stay. Just hit him. Small. Look like be small. You've seen everything.
10 seconds, please. Seconds out. Round 8.
Round 8 then, and Chris Eubank in complete control here. A very brave and a very willing effort this from Marcus Morrison. But there's always been that gap in class between them, and it's just grown wider and wider the longer this one has gone on.
Good here, Roy Jones in the corner to Chris Eubank. You've seen everything this kid's got. You can win it on your jab alone. I don't think Chris Eubank will be happy trying to win this fight on his jab alone as Morrison comes back attacking.
That was a good little spell there from Morrison. Boy, there's no quitting here, but there's certainly no lack of heart in him either. But one of the attributes that we haven't really talked about with Eubank tonight, the chin he inherited from his genes. I mean, that is one of his great weapons. I mean, his dad was one of the toughest British fighters of all time. Boy, could he take a shot, and Eubank can take one as well. Eubank Jr. Morrison hasn't made any kind of dent at all.
It's going to take more than a single count as Morrison's been trying to land on Chris Eubank Jr. Has to go for it himself now.
He's looking for the right hand counter again there. Morrison, Eubank just backs away.
He's tried that same counter about 4 times tonight, Nick. 5 times. Slip, right uppercut to the body, or right hook to the body.
Good, step across. Reach in to the back.
Just very happy to pace himself through this. Let's be honest, he gave away the game plan right in the second round though, didn't he? He just wants to get rounds under the belt tonight, Eubanks.
Yeah, for me, he fights in bursts, obviously, but I think he has a burst and then he takes a minute on, a minute off, or 30 seconds on, a minute and a half off. But then, for me, he has one big round and then he takes the next round off. And he'll have a good round and take the next one off.
Don't overeat. Step across, good. There now. Come in, put your hand in. There you go, good. Hit that there. Good.
Eubanks finally decides to go on one of those bursts.
Nice counter there from Eubanks to the body. Classy shot.